Hello, I'm James Spencer of Spencer Artist Development. Over the course of this acting series, we've talked about character development, audition preparation, monologues, emotional acting, method acting, self-tapes, professional behavior, AI, and how to determine whether an acting career might be right for you. So for our final video in this specific series, I want to put it all together. How do you actually begin building your acting career during your first 12 months of study? I'm going to give you a simple roadmap. You don't have to accomplish everything overnight. Think of it as 12-month development plan. Month 1 and 2, build your foundation. The first 2 months are about preparation. Before start submitting yourself everywhere, make sure you understand what you actually offer. Start with your acting training. I always suggest that you should be studying with an acting coach, artist developer. By the way, if you are 18 and older and you live in the US and you might be interested in studying with me personally, feel free, at the end of this video is my phone number and you can call me for a consult and we can discuss your needs and get you started. Okay? What type of characters do you naturally like to play? Are you more dramatic, comedic, romantic, character-oriented? Do you prefer to move into commercial work or voiceover or maybe musical theater? Begin identifying your casting type and artistic strengths, or at least your artistic interests that you can develop. Then begin building your basic professional materials. You should be working towards having a professional actor resume, professional headshots, several strong monologue reels. Be sure to have your basic audition wardrobe, a self-tape setup, a professional email and online presence. It helps to have a great working computer and printer, getting organized with scripts. If you happen to be doing musical theater, organizing your scores, studying music theory and music ear training. If you're studying voiceover, also putting those voiceover scripts together, moving into studying a little bit of AI animation. And these are things I cover with my students, but those are things you want to start considering. Begin studying consistently and putting time into this. Month 3 and 4 is when you start to build your portfolio. So now start developing your actual acting portfolio, preparing your contrasting monologues that we talked about. Again, I recommend having 5 dramatic and 5 comedic monologues. Work on getting better at memorization. Study character analysis, backstory. Also practice cold readings. Work on diction, voice, and physicality. Begin recording yourself and watch your performances back. Ask yourself, does this look truthful on camera? Do I look like a movie star? You're developing your instrument, and this is also a good time to begin creating your professional self-tape library. Learn how to record, edit, and upload auditions efficiently. You don't want to be learning how your camera works 5 minutes before an audition deadline. This is where you also want to start working with the different websites that can help you find work. We've talked about Backstage. We've talked about for voiceover, voices.com, voices123. Start working with these. Month 5 and 6, you're building your online presence. Now it's time to begin to become more visible. Create or refine your professional online presence. Might include now developing your brand and your actor's website, which might also include voiceover, musical theater, modeling, other things you might do. Start developing professional social media, your YouTube channel, Instagram. Perfect your resume, headshots, get your demo reels up. Voiceover samples might go on to SoundCloud and so forth. Choose casting platforms that are appropriate for your goals. Learn how they work. Create your professional profiles, and don't just upload everything you've ever done. Curate. Your online presence should communicate clearly who you are as an actor, what can you do, what kind of roles are you pursuing. Month 7 and 8 start auditioning strategically. Now we begin moving into the marketplace. Start auditioning, but remember something from our earlier video. It is a numbers game. You are probably not going to book everything. You may not even book very much at first. That's okay. Your goal during this period is not simply to get hired. Your goal is to learn how to audition professionally. Track your auditions, record what you submit for, and notice what types of roles you are getting called for. Notice what feels natural, notice what doesn't, and learn from every experience. This is around the time I say you should start considering applying for community theater. A lot of local community theater groups have people that are, they're intermediate level. They've done, some work, but they're kind of just starting out. Those are great places to start and maybe see if you can get into a play, get some experience. These are great things to do. If that's difficult, if you're not casting, I suggest maybe applying to do some drama labs, scene studies, things like that, maybe with a community college or acting workshops and things, in addition to your private study with your acting coach. Month 9 and 10, you should be expanding your skills. This is a great time to start diversifying. This is where you might start studying dialects. You might start learning about modeling or musical theater. Perhaps you start learning script writing. Maybe, you work with other things that are related to acting to become more well-rounded. You're building your broader artistic career. During this period is a great time to also start working with AI. This is where you can start using ChatGPT to help you create study guides. This is where you might start using something like Duolingo to start learning additional languages. You want to be expanding your vocabulary. You want to be studying the history of acting. So this is where you could take a community college class in the history of film, the history of plays. This is where you might start doing this on your own as well. Watch Academy Award-winning movies. Things like that. Study, if you're in musical theater, obviously you want to learn musical theater history. You want to know your composers. You want to know, what roles are right for you, things like that. Month 11 and 12 are you're reviewing and refining. This is where you kind of take a step back and say, okay, how did I do this year? Where am I deficient? And what worked for me? Okay. This is also where if you're moving towards a career, you need to start thinking about, let's say you have a day job. This is where you might be thinking, okay, how can I start moving towards self-employment so it frees up time for me to go on acting auditions and build my career. This is why I tell my actors that voiceover is a great place to be, is to do acting and voiceover. The reason why is there's always voiceover work and it takes very little startup. So a lot of my students that are breaking into the industry with trying to get into television and film, they can do, audiobook narration. They can do commercial voiceover. They can do voiceover and animation projects, things like that. Or if you're a singer in musical theater, a lot of people might say, okay, I have my day job, but now maybe I'm performing, 1 or 2 nights a week at a fine restaurant or a hotel, doing a little bit of extra geeking to get a little bit of extra money to start putting towards headshots, things you need. Okay, these are smart moves. You got to think about in month 11 and 12 too, like where are you financially? If you are barely paying the bills, just getting by, or if you're in a lot of debt, I have to be honest to say it really is harder to break into being discovered. You need to have that time available to be able to go on auditions. You need to be financially covered. So this is where, I work with my students specifically on those strategies of what you might do. Here's some other examples of things I teach that students have done. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, and I teach psychic development and tarot divination. And with tarot certification, that's just like a 10-hour course. So once you have that, I have students that are like, oh, now I can get hired being a psychic for online services and start working from home during the day. Now I have all this time to go out and audition. So that's just like one aspect of being a little bit creative and thinking out of the box. And that's been very successful for a lot of my students to do that. Or again, voiceover. Or again, if you're a singer, I have a lot of students that sing out, or they're doing things like that. If you're younger, and you live in California, don't rule out the amusement parks. A lot of my students are, characters at Disneyland in shows and parades at Knott's Berry Farm. They're working up at Universal Studios. These are all options for younger artists. Don't rule out things too, like if you have musical theater, going on a cruise ship. One thing about cruise ship jobs is sometimes you live on the ship for a while, right? So that you don't have any bills, so then you can save. And that also gives you experience performing, gets you out seeing other countries, things like that. So that might be right for some people. What I do again as an artist developer is to say, let's take a look at what might be opportunities for your specific situation. Okay. Also, in month 11 and 12, you really do have to examine where you currently are living. If you happen to live, I'm just going to use an example, in a rural country city away from industry and the arts, it's harder to make a living. So you might need to relocate. And I always say, like for my people, my actors on the West Coast, you do possibly want to be in LA County because that's where the industry is. If you live in the South, which I have a lot of students in Georgia, South Carolina, places like that, Atlanta is a great film city, and you might want to relocate there, okay? If you live in the North, if you are New England, of course, we all know New York is the place to go, and Broadway, and there's plays and filming up there. So it is a lifestyle, and to make a career at it, those are things you want to think about. I help my students that are in different areas create those game plans to get where they need to go, and so forth. Great. Well, thank you for joining me in this acting channel, and please feel free to check out my voiceover videos and other videos I will be putting up. Again, if you have any questions on studies with me, artist development, feel free to call the office here, and I will take a look, and we can have a talk and see what might be right for you. Letting my people know that I do book up very, very quickly. We are now in August of 2026, so I'm booking already for fall, and I think I have 2 or 3 more openings. However, if I can't get you in, I do have a whole team of other performers, other teachers that might be able to help you. Okay? Thank you so much for your time.